Hello to a new episode of Reptil TV. My intro animal today is particularly beautiful, and it is a brown rainbow boa. But of course not just any normal one, otherwise it would be brown. A leucistic or blue-eye Lucy of the brown rainbow boa. This blue-eye Lucy is a recessive color variant of the brown rainbow boa and has been around in the terrarium hobby. I believe the first ones appeared about 10-20 years ago. I remember the first animals were already circulating in the USA, but they were very rarely available in the terrarium hobby, so even today it's something you get rather rarely. As a juvenile, they are white with this yellow pattern on them. The bigger they get, the whiter they become. Adult animals are snow white and have bluish eyes, really beautiful. What is also interesting is that the heterozygous animals like the maros have a more or less distinct pattern when they are young, and the bigger they get, the more they lose the pattern. The interesting thing is that the heteroleucistics retain the pattern much more distinctly than the normals, so even they are, in quotation marks, prettier or more intensely colored than a normal morus. I find them beautiful. You can tell by my enthusiasm. My intro animal today is the blue-eyed Lucy, brown rainbow boa, Epicrates morus. The topic today is the 5 most common terrarium animals. At first I had written down the 5 most popular as a title for myself. The question is always, what is popular and what is not? Most common might be a bit more objective. However, I have to limit this because there are no statistics on it. We terrarium enthusiasts are far too insignificant and uninteresting for any statisticians or research institutes that deal with this and produce any meaningful statistics. Even within the pet industry, where the terrarium hobby belongs, we usually appear among others like terrarium animals or something like that. In my opinion, we are always underrated and underrepresented. I believe that the German pet industry is not even aware of how many terrarium animals there actually are. This also has to do with the fact that a lot is exchanged privately or acquired and bred. That's why we always slip through the focus of the pet industry. Long story short, I have thought about it based on my experience, perhaps also from the frequency with which I see customers coming to us, from the frequency of how many animals we sell per year. I have created a ranking list, the top 5, starting now with number 5. In 5th place of the most common terrarium animals, I would say, are the European tortoises, Testudo. In this case, I have Testudo hermanni-botkori here, but I will use Testudo as the overarching term for European tortoises. I believe they definitely land in 5th place. I think there are in Germany, I know there are thousands of tortoises in Germany, whether in terrariums or outdoor keeping in gardens. You don't really hear much about them because people who keep Testudos don't really need to trade much. They don't have to buy food regularly because it's available outside. They might occasionally come by and buy vitamins, mineral products, or maybe some tortoise supplements like dried hay cubes, hay pellets, or something like that. You see them from time to time, but overall, you don't see much of a tortoise community anymore. Nevertheless, I believe, as I said, there are really several thousands, perhaps even 5 figures of European tortoises in Germany, and that's why they are in the top 5 of terrarium animals, meaning the most commonly kept terrarium animals in Germany, Testudo. Then we come to 4th place. In my opinion, the leopard gecko, Eublepharis macularius. In my estimation, it ranks 4th among the most common terrarium animals. There are certainly 5 figures of leopard geckos in Germany, also because many terrarium enthusiasts don't just have 1 to 2 animals, but maybe 10, 20 or even 30 leopard geckos. They breed wonderfully in terrariums. Nowadays, there are also incredibly many different colors. So here in my left hand is a smaller hypotangerine leopard gecko. In my right hand is almost the classic coloration, although this one also has black night in it, which makes it a bit darker than the classic wild color. I could have also taken a black night, which is completely black. This also shows the incredible variability in the colors that can be bred here. I believe that these color breeds, I know that among some terrarium enthusiasts, color breeding is relatively unpopular. They say, why do that? The natural color is the most beautiful. On the other hand, one must see that this color breeding is also fun, or presents a certain challenge to say, come on, I'll try to breed it completely black or bright yellow or orange or blood red. It also has an appeal in breeding itself, at least for a large part of the terrarium enthusiasts. And I believe that these color breeds have also helped the leopard gecko really land in 4th place. Besides that, it is of course a great, relatively easy to care for, a grateful terrarium animal. Always well behaved, always sociable. That's why it ranks 4th on my list. In 3rd place is the corn snake, Pantherophis guttatus. Here is an adult. Female. Color. Sand. In this case, we certainly have several tens of thousands in Germany, or well over tens of thousands in Germany. It has always been a popular terrarium snake in terraristics, similar to the leopard geckos just mentioned. Perhaps this variability also plays a role. You can breed all sorts of colors from white to black to sand, where the colors are much more vibrant. There is everything possible, which certainly adds to the appeal of the corn snake. Otherwise, it is a snake that is always sociable and well behaved. It is actually never aggressive, so to speak, never bites. So it is really a great terrarium animal, easy to keep, feeds without any problems, and can also be well fed with frog food, etc. In my ranking, the corn snake lands in 3rd place. Now we are already at the top ranks. In 2nd place, we are back to a lizard, the bearded dragon. I believe that bearded dragons are undoubtedly the most common lizard among terrarium animals. So I will already mention that 1st place is not a lizard, perhaps a crocodile as a armored lizard or something. 2nd place, bearded dragon. There will certainly be a good 5-digit number of bearded dragons in Germany. A good example is always school classes. When you go into a classroom and ask, does any one of you have reptiles at home? Then usually 1, 2, 3 or 4 students raise their hands, and when you ask, what do you have? Then it often comes up that we have a bearded dragon at home. Bearded dragons are simply a great terrarium animal. They are always well behaved and friendly. They can have incredibly beautiful colors, perhaps not as extreme as what we have seen with corn snakes or leopard geckos. For example, there are no pitch black or very light bearded dragons, but otherwise, especially in the red range, there are tiger orange with black stripes. This one here is also a tiger. There are really great colors. As I said, they are very well behaved. The 2 here are almost fully grown. Bearded dragons can weigh about twice as much as what I have here in my hand. A very popular terrarium animal when I got into this business about 35 years ago. The first Pogona viticeps and Henry Lawsoni, back then they were still called rankinis. The first babies mainly came from East Germany. That was a small sensation, and they took their place in terraristics over the last 35 years. And as I said, now there are many in all colors. They have made a steep career in terraristics and land in 2nd place. Now let's move on to 1st place. the drum roll is already over because I have them in my hand. Of course, you could accuse me, "Oh look, Stefan, with your ball pythons, you intentionally put them in first place." I think it's a fact. From my perspective, it is a fact. If someone says, "I have a snake at home," I ask, "What do you have?" "A ball python." In 8 out of 10 cases, the person says yes, or in 7 out of 10 cases. In the other cases, it might be the corn snake, and as I said, then something else comes up very rarely. So based on that, I am pretty sure that the ball python is the most kept terrarium animal in Germany. When you consider that there were years when we sold 1,000-2,000 ball python hatchlings in a season alone, they must be somewhere. Of the 1,000-2,000, of course some animals went abroad, but many also stayed in Germany. There are certainly tens of thousands of ball pythons in terrariums in Germany. This is certainly related to the fact that it is a great terrarium snake. A suitable ball python is always well behaved and decent. It is incredibly variable. I have a super gravel and a piebald as examples in my hand. Maybe I should have also taken a classic to show how it looks naturally. Similar to leopard geckos or corn snakes, part of the success certainly lies in the variability. All these different colors are also fun to breed. They are a challenge. You want to breed a piebald someday, or you want to breed a super gravel, or you want to make a pastel highway or a pastel super gravel from this super gravel, or you want to breed the super gravel into the piebald, whatever. That is a challenge that part of this hobby is, and you know I am of course also a complete ball python fan, and I believe that this is how most terrarium keepers feel. And that is why the ball python ranks first among the most kept terrarium animals in Germany. Or rather, I would say the most kept terrarium animal worldwide is the ball python. Those were my top 5 of frequently kept terrarium animals. I am looking forward to your feedback. Post below and feel free to leave your comments. Say, "Oh Stefan, you completely forgot this and that. But where are, for example, the hook-nosed snakes? Or where are the crested geckos?" The crested gecko might be the rising star of the year, or rather, of the decade, not of the year, rather of the decade, I would say. Maybe in a few years it will also make it into the top 5. But for now, it is not among the top 5 terrarium animals. I am quite sure of that. As I said, I am looking forward to your feedback, your comments on who you would have placed in the 5, whether you agree with me or if you say, "No, completely wrong, take that out, put this in." Otherwise, stay loyal to me. Give me a thumbs up if you liked it. Of course, subscribe to the channel. And otherwise, you saw that number 1 was the ball python, so check my balls.